Good evening, everyone, those present here in São Paulo. Today is the public sharing of May 24. We are recording here at the nucleus of São Paulo. The title is Dreams as a Path of Learning. Education that we receive in general does not build in us even a stimulus for our self-knowledge. So we are gradually raised, we grow up always towards a kind of self-affirmation, a purely individual, egoic, concrete experience, and we forget that one third of our lives we spend sleeping more or less consciously. So this is a very broad topic. We'll here share some examples of dreams, and we have some very interesting questions. Something that is very essential about the topic of dreams is that it's not a topic that is under our control. We can make offerings, as we'll see, dialogue with ourselves before we go to bed or fall asleep. We can open ourselves or do many kinds of exercises, but this is a topic that's completely out of control. This perhaps explains a little, I don't know if it explains, but it's an important element in the face of the question that someone made here. During the night, I have insomnia and I never have dreams. I have nightmares. When I wake up, I feel heavy and I don't feel I have rested. We, as conscious beings who have our physical brains, nervous system, memory, all this, we inevitably create many layers of self-protection. And as we do not have this formation, this upbringing of knowing ourselves better, we end up sweeping under the floor, as we say, many situations of the consciousness that we do not face, not in the sense of confronting it, but that we do not want to face. This often creates in our unconscious a situation of transferring to the moment of the dream through the lack of defense, the absence of the control of the physical brain, dreams. And then the personality, the more conscious person of ours, and that which is called the guardian threshold. I will make a comment about this. All this creates many situations that make it difficult for us to sleep well. This is not, of course, the only cause or the situation connected to insomnia. But this is something very important when we, in this context of expansion of consciousness, we want to know ourselves a little better, look at ourselves and try to enjoy in our inner beings the presence of some situations that might not be so good or the way we would imagine. So the topic of insomnia in some cases, again, not in all cases, might have to do with this. The personality perceives that the individual has an opening to the intuitive life. It perceives it's going to lose control during the dream, and it creates some biological situations, mobilizing neurotransmitters, a situation that makes it difficult for the person to fall asleep and live a process of feeling defenseless against themselves, I mean. So it is something important from the physical point of view, is that we do not have that rigor, the word that fits. We have to have a black space during the night. According to doctors, even lead of a recharger interferes with the production of melatonin. Many have some light in the room, something blinking. This generates a state of alert in the nervous system, and depending on the sensitivity of each one of us, might also disturb this process. And another topic of this self-defense of the ego, of the personality, before the person who is seeking a deeper level, is that we might be taken to our inner world and see aspects of our personality that during our conscious life we do not want to face. So let's suppose that someone is not as transparent as they consider themselves to be. So during the dream, the individual soul places them in a situation during the dream. Do you follow me? In which the person lies, manipulates by past situations. So the personality, if it is very resistant to the process, it again creates this mechanism of not allowing the person to allow them to fall asleep, because it knows that sooner or later in the inner world will unmask this situation. Here's something interesting that we may consider, which is the following. I leave the physical body through the astral body, and I remember almost everything. I have started to hear premonitory messages that confirm themselves later. The messages are for myself and also for the lives of other people. And the person notices participation in the movement of rescue of souls. I feel it's too much. How can I deal with all this? We have studied in previous sharings that we are a humanity in evolution. We have gone throughout many races with very specific experiences, and as we have been Atlantis, we developed the astral body a lot. The astral body in Atlantis was overstimulated, and at the end of the Atlantean period, it was really very much stimulated. It might be, I'm not affirming, but just as an element of study for you, that you have this situation in your astral body as an Atlantean experience, and at this moment of your experience of this, your incarnation, your astral body is too active and it needs to be educated how to do it. It needs to be polished. What we call initiations or expansions of consciousness. It refers to the moment when our consciousness expands in the inner worlds and it gradually gains greater control or contention over the lower bodies. This is a long process. In classical spirituality, it was considered as very serious. We do not obtain initiation through a weekend workshop. So initiation, authentic initiation, refers to an expansion of consciousness, and it vitalizes a higher level to acquire not control as authority, but conscious management of the lower bodies. As most of us do not live this process today, we do not have these initiations. We have something within us which we call guardian angel, which is considered in general as something playful, of children, something emotional, childish. But however, I will not use it an accessory, but it's something that is part of our incarnatory experience as an angelic consciousness that accompanies all incarnations of our soul on the planet. This is something very important. We, people here, have the memory, when we do have memory of this incarnation. Our guardian angel has been accompanying us since the beginning of our incarnation. Just check the abysmal distance. It accompanies and helps us in so many things. So again, we do not have, as I said at the beginning of the sharing, not bringing that refers to this. It's not a matter of dealing with little angels as children. So it's something that is even more real than your presence here in this room. The point is the angelic consciousness communicates with us through states of consciousness. We are talking about states of consciousness. For example, each guardian angel is part of an angelic and archangelic hierarchy that has a set of values or impulses as expressions of states of consciousness. As this humanity is still very emotional and very mental, state of consciousness to us is something we have to think about it. What does state of consciousness refer to? However, our deep consciousness has a great reservoir, so to say, of states at its disposal because we have had many experiences in this universe and planet. Therefore, our guardian angels knows many different states. So in the context of the question, you can refer to this consciousness that you have. Everyone has a guardian angel. It's not anyone's privilege. What can happen is that if we insist on less evolutionary experiences, our guardian angel ends up being polarized, washing its hands, to say more clearly, with that it doesn't want to participate. So everything that is evolutionary lives a confrontation in our inner worlds because our guardian angel also needs help in this situation. But what is important is that this exists and it's a resource that you can mobilize and make use of. To conclude also, as regards dreams and themselves and premonitions and all that, a suggestion to avoid an overstimulation of the astral body is that you could take notes, not make any comment, but just write down what you perceived in the dream. You create a journal and you ask for confirmation, for light, observe that, offer that internally, make yourself available to help that situation somehow. The point is, if about these impressions place an emotional involvement, am I clear? You potentialize all that and eventually you unleash an impulsive process that is not necessary. If it is disturbing you, it's because something is not according to the law and it's not balanced. So I would recommend these attitudes. And someone says that they don't remember any dream and if asking if this is normal. Look, we do not have again this upbringing of preparing us for this moment in our life. Nowadays, especially with technology, we go to the threshold of what we can endure, and at the last moment, we cannot deal with that. So all that stimulation, information, this gradually disturbs this harmony of the etheric brain. In a comment, we have the physical brain, our physical body, and we have a situation that is our etheric body. In other words, it's like a layer that permeates our physical body, which is the counter part of our dense body that we know. So our astral body and our mental body during the dream, the sleep, it unfolds and displaces and becomes free from our physical body, and a greater part of our experience remains recorded in the etheric plane, astral or mental body. So, help to remember a part of the dream at least is to prepare when you go to bed to pray for some minutes to calm down, to have the room very dark, you put a blackout and that's it. Something else that is perhaps even more important than all this is that we may remember that when we are returning to physical bodies, we should avoid making any sudden movements. If we are restless, we should calm down again instead of repeating them in us. So we are awakening. We perceive that we are between two worlds, so to say. So we avoid making sudden movements or we avoid starting sudden movements. So what was recorded in the subtle body and the etheric body, it wouldn't project onto the physical body, and we do not assimilate if we do not avoid that. So lastly, there is a book by Figueira called Foundations of the Fiery World, and in my opinion, it's one of the most important books of Figueira because in that book he offered his experience with works of symbols and affirmations. This creates in your physical body and emotional body through evolutionary affirmations help so that it may become more organized. So the consciousness would come from the physical body. He reports in this book that this exercise he would do with geometric forms, colors, and affirmations. So we are before a symbol of a circle with a point, a lozenge, a cube, whatever. Each one will reach the point where it makes sense to them and choose one that will make sense to them. So you make your brain more ready for an assimilation of all this. We also have a way of functioning, of living and understanding that is too mental, isn't it so? Completely based on prejudice, memory, and previous experience, continuous comments on the situations. So with this path of knowledge and learning that the dream may represent, acquire many filters and layers that make it much more difficult to grasp. So it's just a matter of seeing a bird, a color, a number. Our mind starts interpreting or overvalue that, and the symbol that is behind it doesn't really get to touch us. Symbolic life is not about understanding or not the symbol. It's our accompanying that impulse and letting that impulse touch that place in us that will foster some reflection, some change. It's a very interesting path. Now, symbolic dreams, they can also be part of a life decision in our priorities. So let's observe how our relationship with concrete life is. A life permeated with attachments, emotional attachments, or crystallized in prejudices, biases, all this story. Or if I have made a decision or I have started suspecting that I'm here to serve. I have incarnated to somehow collaborate so that myself, humanity, the planet, the surroundings, the kingdoms of nature may receive from me direct or indirect collaboration. This point is very important because, as we'll see, oftentimes, when we make this offering and we become aware that when we fall asleep, our consciousness, which is not our personality, it continues alive, obviously, on other planes. And we may have an activity. I do not say nocturnal because some people sleep during the day because they work at night, but an extremely rich dream life because they may say when they wake up that they have worked for hours and hours, and they have worked. Their mental and astral bodies and even etheric bodies were used by your consciousness to displace on the astral plane or mental plane. They are planes of great plasticity and mobility, and they may have collaborated with some situation. Here, the person mentioned that they would rescue souls. Who knows? So, if our offering, even in another life, was accepted by the universe, it may happen that at night somehow our subtle bodies may be used by our deep consciousness to work and serve in different contexts. And another aspect of the topic of dreams is that if we are too much attached, let's not see attachment as a criticism. It's just um, uh, an imperfection in our creation, or we may be too much connected to prejudice and incomprehensions. So when we fall asleep, what is not resolved in our human experience, it goes to the next body, the emotional body or mental body. And our dreams becomes disturbed, and we see that it's a replica of our day with distinct elements, and this becomes very tiresome for the physical body that ends up paying, as we say, for these situations. So dreams, they do not follow a logics of daily life. This is a process permeated by symbolic elements, and we may dream, for example, for an hour or two, but in general, we only remember fragments. And we know that what happens is important. Many people report that they are taking showers, getting on a bus, taking a taxi, or they are undertaking a test at the university somewhere, and they remember a moment in the dream that they didn't even remember before. So it's a very specific impulse that comes. What is recommended is that we do not try to rebuild it, as it is a passive process on our part. What was recorded to us, if I make a proactive movement to try to rebuild what I have just remembered, I end up changing the image. I see a flower, then I imagine another flower. There was a lake behind. I may create a whole script. So this work with dreams should be accompanied by an intention of great neutrality and humility rather than our and, entering the topic at first, because the symbol of the flower would be transformed into a landscape that was not part of the dream. This is very important. And very colorful dreams, when our dream has many colors, movements, and sounds. This is a dream that is taking place in the astral plane, which is a plane that's very similar to the physical plane. So when it's more black and white, more silent, more neutral, it's something more of the mental plane. Many also dream with people who have died. This disturbs people a lot. Family members or loved ones or friends from childhood or members of the family. In general, these beings who present themselves in dreams, they are younger in general. This shows that in a subtle body, when we disincarnate from the physical experience, we go to the astral body, and we might even remain there, disincarnated on the astral plane, and wait for a next incarnation, or disincarnate from the astral and mental plane, technically, depending on the maturity and age of that soul, which is our true being. the intervals between incarnations are greater. Why? Because so that our souls may assimilate that incarnation and then allow these hierarchical levels that we have studied, the Lords of Karma, our guardian angel, may organize our next experience. However, if we stay in the astral body, we'll find there many elements that are in the astral body, including these beings. So we meet people with whom we have a karmic bond and so on and so forth. So this disturbs a lot, many people. We should learn from dreams. As soon as we realize it's a nightmare, a dream that is less positive, according to our interpretation or expectation, let's try to remain serene so that it calms down. It may disturb less and less our subtle bodies. If it's a dream, if it's a service in the subtle plane, okay. And if it has a message for us, let's recognize it at due moment. So another dream that is quite recurrent is that people see themselves in places where they were raised. They know that the street, the house they need to go to is, say, turning right. The people walk and walk, and a new street appears, something else appears, another kind of street appears. Many people report this. This may refer to many incarnations in which we knew where we had to reach, but we are turning around. So we we do not go, we try to go there. So this dream comes to warn us. Be careful because this process may be turning around. If we have an objective, if we know where we go, if we insist on not following the indications that we have, we may have this kind of dream. And those who report this dream report them with great disturbance. They are aware that the place is near, but they can't go there. They can't reach the place because they are turning around themselves and not going straight to their objective. So here we have some dreams for us to see how this path of learning that the dreams represent eventually bring an element for us to appear without importance. When we talk about symbols, someone imagines a sun sending rays, a landscape. But no, symbolic life seeks the path of least resistance within us and a language for us to know ourselves because symbolic life comes from our inner worlds, our deep levels, or from the consciousness that accompany us. See the dream. See, I dreamt with a yellow shirt that had buttons, looking at myself. I was well. However, when I looked on the mirror, the left side was folded and there was a button missing on the chest level. This was a dream for our concrete life. It was a simple dream. It was a shirt without one button. If it was recorded and the person perceived, let's see what symbols may be contained in this dream. Here, it seems an impulse for us to develop discernment about our image about ourselves. At first, it's all well, but when we look at on the mirror, it's daily life, that which activates reactions in us, isn't that so? We see it mirrored on situations and reactions from others, and that eventually causes a movement in us. So our relationship with life, which may be represented in the dream, in this exposition of ourselves, And this left side that is folded and with the missing button on the chest, it may refer to disorganization of feelings in our relationship with life. So a button, we 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 protect our heart area, our heart plexus. It refers to the organization of our feelings. You see an image that might seem insignificant, how it can help us receive indication that perhaps consciously we would not realize. So symbolic life shows us something that's just a flash that might take 5 seconds, 8 seconds, but it's important. And here, someone who has some connection with indigenous consciousness had the dream. They dreamt with a kokar, what they place on their heads, which had 7 colors, and that kokar was deteriorated. So let's analyze it. So they saw the yellow color without kind of pale and a bright yellow is the color of concentrated thought, concise thought, quite associated with the higher matrix. But this pale yellow in this state of decomposition is a dissociative mind. So pale green, diffuse, this points to a misalignment between bodies. Green in general is the color of healing, well understood as an alignment among our different states of consciousness. And this pale green may inform about a misalignment in your bodies. And then also a morbid gray tone shade that may represent the gradual death of your best aspirations. So when you have a gray color, it may mean the gradual death of your best aspirations. Then a saturated pink, so to say, which may be the need to be under the spotlight, to be noticed by others. So this might be an invitation to be more anonymous, more low profile. So you see a dream, a cocar with these colors in the process of deterioration, how this brings symbols, impulses. And then marine blue, as with imperfections, with points without colors. Which is this difficulty that we may have to deepen in our inner process. Blue is an invitation for our submerging in our deeper levels. And then the person saw that there was a wine color that was not an intense color. This records our experience in each incarnation. This is highlighted in the body of Christ. In the body of Christ, all his experiences in many stages. So the blood is the substrate in which our experience remains printed. So this colorless wine color is indicating that you should place more attention into your life. So you see how a very subtle symbol may inform us so many important things. And the 7th color was a pale orange, and this pale orange color may be the discernment that has become affected by the insistence on empty rituals and practices as mechanical rites. We make our actions mechanical. So this pale orange is our discernment as affected by our insistence on this situation. Isn't symbolic life interesting and rich? Here it was the dream of someone. It seems that today our emotional bodies are stirred. The person was before the sea. The sea was calm, relatively calm and peaceful. So they placed their left foot on the water and the sea became stirred. And then they removed the foot and the sea became calm again. And they looked down and saw that they were wearing a sandal only on the left foot. When we insist on emotional involvement, our left side of our body refers to our personality, and the sea in general, water, swimming pools, floods, all this overflowing of the astral emotional body. It's not a judgment value. It's just a body of ours that's a swelling tendency. We know our emotional body. We do not need to reinforce this defect of production that it has. So, this sandal symbolizes possibly that accumulation of our tendency to protect ourselves. That last layer, the sandal, is a simple shoe that does not allow us to be barefoot before life, prevents us from touching the ground reality. So the sandal on the left foot was creating the agitation of the sea. So the sea becomes stirred and relationships become stirred also. So if we can suggest anything, experience, observe how much emotion you place onto everything that you relate to, and check if souls may become calmer. So the emotional body takes a too impulsive step, it agitates the waters. So this is an important warning. So here there is a dream with numbers, which is a recurrent dream with many people. And again, a comment. Not always what we call dreams is all only what happens when we go to bed and sleep and dream. We may be on a big avenue and then we have a flash, an onirical experience, a dream experience. Why? Because for some reason we have released control of our mental body, and then a subtle experience that is ready to be recorded, and we perceive something in our minds, or even our world of relationships. It presents itself repetitively. People also report that they see a number on the clock, on a car, on a sign, on a menu at a restaurant. You see repetitive numbers. Dreams with numbers is a path that is widely used by our evolutionary, our intuitive world. So look at this dream. I dreamt that I was in a four-story building and saw myself before an apartment number 33. However, I was on the fourth floor. And someone was telling me that I needed to end a work on the third floor and come back again to the fourth floor. 33 is a number of everything that must be mature in us. So when our incarnation goes through another kind of metabolism after we reach 33 in age, as a maturity of attitudes in us. So if in the dream 33 is appearing, it's pointing to a moment of maturity, of growing mature. So being on the fourth floor and facing apartment 33, which should be in the third on the third floor. This means that we should develop discernment of what happens on the third floor, which is the mind. So remembering, in this architecture, we have the physical body, the first floor, emotional body, second floor, and mental body, the third floor. And when we reach the intuitive world, we mature to make a synthesis of the rational process, the paradox of the concrete mind. We have to develop intuition. However, before that, we have to conclude the work with the 33 to mature discernment of the mental body to create that bridge to our inner intuitive world. So, in synthesis, is a process of growing mature and an invitation to uh, training of the emotional body. So let's open to questions if you have. But here we have content that is very interesting, which is being placed at this moment on the screens of the transmission. We are here a lot, live here in São Paulo. We are recording on the 23rd. The sharing will be transmitted tomorrow, 24th. It refers to a content published by Irdin Editora Publishing House, and it's called Dreams in Our Evolution. Many sharings dealing with inner situations. It is in Portuguese. It is a very important content. Dreams in Our Evolution is a Portuguese language content available on the website of Irdin Editora. Okay. Anyone present here would have any question about the content of today? To struggle with dreams during the dream. Struggle with dreams. What does it mean? Originally, so to say, we identify the night as a moment of dream. Our body was created in a way that, in the absence of light, our gland neurological process organizes itself to live this dream process. So it it's not something very normal, but the tendency to refuse the movement of the night, as in the case of insomnia, it might be a self-defense mechanism to avoid entering the inner world and live this experience and transfer it to the day moment. It may find more movement during the day as compared to the night. So the person prefers to sleep during the day for this reason instead of sleeping during the night. That might be the reason. Dream with fierce animal. It was I who dreamt. My son was fighting these animals and managed to annihilate them, so to say. My son, they were three animals, fierce animals. They were tigers. They invaded my house, and this dream has what I had this dream a long time ago, but it always repeats itself to my mind. There is a saying in Brazil that says, "Those who who sow wind reap or harvest storms." You should see if your mind is not emitting like an implosion, so to say, of energies that are less evolutionary. They may be hostile. These may be accumulating in your bodies. You said three bodies, three tigers. They may be symbols of these energies in each body, and they become released, liberated during the dream. They come as a boomerang as a result of what you have sown to warn you. Careful with what you are emanating. This does not exclude eventually, which is another path, that you may be making contact with the manifestation, the embodiment of many hostile forces that surround us all the time. We have no idea of the hostile situation that we find day by day. We see violence, aggressiveness in attitude, in action, etc. But in most cases, we do not see that. Eventually, instead of our seeking refuge in a place of neutrality, but if we start creating a kind of bond, we nourish, we feed this violence. And in our dreams, it gains a form to frighten us, which is a strategy of dark forces to foster in you an atrophy of your mood. So you have two aspects. First, it might be a liberation of everything that you have made contact with. As it is repetitive, there is a learning there. There is a lesson there. Whenever a dream repeats itself, either as a recurrent dream or after some years, there is a lesson that has not been assimilated yet. Ask, what do I have to learn from this? This is a very important question because we human beings, in our human condition, we inherit, if we may use this expression, what we call a contact with capital energies, which is a set of less positive energies. They may even be involutionary energies that comprise the energies of the planet. We have made a sharing about this, about the planetary logos. One of these energies is the energy of pride, which includes as an arm the energy of arrogance. If we do not ask ourselves, what do I have to learn from anything at that very moment? What do I, for in the dream, what do I have to learn from this? Our mind places an answer. No, I know this already. This is not important. So all the potential, making use of your question to expand the topic. So most of our learning it remains wasted because I don't have this willingness to learn. A child comes. Shall we will walk in a park. The child, what does she do? She picks up a leaf, she runs, she sees an animal, she sees the ant, she's interested in learning. We do not have this upbringing, we do not have this intention to learn. So we should ask, if it repeats, what should I learn from this? Two tips. It may be a liberation of an accumulated material on our subconscious, especially in the mental and astral bodies. And something else, this situation of sowing less positive feelings. This aggressiveness is one of the aspects of tigers. You talk about annihilation, confrontation. This is hostile force. And in the silence of your mind, of your prayers, there is not a tiger. If there is a tiger biting everyone, the dream says, careful. Anyone else? When we have a dream that is black and white, and at the moment we are on a building, and another moment we are on the street, and another moment we are in a different country or city. And in a dream only one color appears, what would that mean? when in a dream, what is recorded in us is a detail like this, one color. It's important. The question is important because colors are not physical. These colors, artificially built, black, red, blue, this is not true blue. The life of the colors is a frequency, vibration, just like dreams. So in a dream, if black in a dream that is black and white, let's learn to how to contemplate what was recorded. So I dreamt with a rose. So our proud mind paints a scenery of Hollywood because it will not be satisfied with a flower. It couldn't be, it shouldn't be only a flower. So even so, if you have a black and white dream, so it's mental. So and then a color appears, so this color is from the astral body. It's representing some kind of feeling. I gave an example of 7 colors in this context. So it's a matter of making contact with this and allowing that element of symbolic life to work on your consciousness. So even if you saw a light blue, make contact with that, be before that, and do not fear that. Do not reject it. That will work, and even if you're not mentally aware, conceptually aware of that, the work that that symbol has to do is done. We pay attention, therefore, the origin of that will take charge of that. The one here. My doubt is I have dreams that keep repeating, not like one each other, but a similar situation. I am at a place where people are eating a very good sweet, or when it comes my turn comes, it's no longer there available. I was in a sacred week on the hill, and there was someone in a refectory helping themselves with a cake. And when I tried to help myself with the cake to serve myself, I felt jerk and I couldn't find it. The sweet, the cake, with all due respect to those who cook cakes, do not send hostile thoughts onto me. This, from the essential point of view, they represent something that is not essential. What your inner world may be helping, trying to interrupt this flow that seeks something that is not essential. Just a comment. I'm not a dream reader, okay? With my experience with this almost 36 years in at the community living with Trigueirinho, these are not the period endpoint. I'm just contextualizing my situation. I think your microphone is disconnected. Good evening. The quality of dream life somehow reflects our stage in our evolutionary process. It depends on your priorities. If you're a being, a consciousness that has perceived that you start from something, from humanity, the planet, the universe, and you make yourself available and willing to be a positive presence, this universal intelligence will make use of you in the good sense to balance many things. In other words, if your offering is to serve selflessly, to make use of your consciousness to perfect, balance, and improve, eventually, yes, it'll be a reset in your consciousness. Beings that have a relationship that is very attached to matter, they may take to dream life the reflection of this, and this may be only a continuity of this kind of life. Or in the example that she gave, the mind may say, just so as far as this, the cake is gone. But without a doubt, what is the most important from your question that I can extract is our not having have in this moment, which is one third of our incarnation, it's years and years sleeping. Shouldn't we at least consider this as part of our life? Because just by having it in mind, keeping it in mind, how often we are on a bus or we are traveling, even by considering this, I continue to be alive. We may continue to be serene. I may continue to live. This is why the title of the sharing is Dreams as a Path of Learning. So the most important thing is our openness to learn, to evolve. And symbolic life, as it doesn't follow the process of mental control, and neither is it generated by ourselves. It's a path in which we are barefoot, and this is why our personality creates insomnia, because it perceives that it started to be discovered in the dream. So I went there and I did that. I went here and did this, and I have done wrong things. So it starts to disturb the process of sleeping. So the dream can talk about our what we are. And on the other hand, our inner world may even help us to manifest what we should be. Am I clear? Not being a continuation of what we are, but be a matrix of what we should be. There are people who have dreams that are extremely lucid, pages, almost a script. Impressively, very few cases the person manages to record detail after detail, and that can help the person in their trajectory. But it all depends on our intention and on the past of our consciousness. If we've had many lifetimes, especially in the East, connected to compassion, love, silence, inner emptiness, detachment, the other side of life, the occult life, is more familiar to us. Our mind may make use of these incarnations to be a yoga of learning experience. She spoke about the tigers, and I have a dream with great felines, but they are calm, they approach me, I become anxious, but with a dream of the spirit that's more real, where I see the teeth of the tigers, but they are there, radiating their power. If you could speak about this, talk about this. In Greece and old and ancient Egypt, the animals were quite considered as a stage in human evolution, in which the animal kingdom was considered as very close to us. First of all, to be stimulated in the building of a mental body, because the animal doesn't have a mental body. And then, which I think is your case, that we have not as individual beings, but other people on the planet, moments in our lives or on the planet that need to be preserved. Animals are also an expression of protection, especially the felines, the great animals. They approach us and maintain some forces in their own places. So if your impression is of protection, they are passive, they are near. This may be a karmic result of a positive bond that you have, a white karma, as we say, a positive bond from other lives that now comes to help you. Many beings report during dreams. Figueira reports, I think, in the book Time of Retreat, Time of Vigil, that all our process of expansion of consciousness and the preparation for that expansion is always accompanied by a representative of the animal kingdom. Of course, that which we call the Passion of Christ, which apparently is something of a religious group, but it isn't. It's a cosmic universal situation. We do not have reports of animals. present, but they were present, both internally and externally. So if you have an open karma with this, do not miss the opportunity because it is a help of protection of reference and even a good omen, so to say, because you have a constructive path ahead of you. Reflecting on the dreams, I ask myself also, I wonder if a dream is not a path to awakening to a reality that we live, and that this bridge may be made through our inner being, inner world. In other words, when you go to sleep and really want to have this contact, you may ask your inner being to lead you, to give you some light, to guide you about some topics, and you remain attentive to these signs. And something else regarding the dreams, can we go by parts? Let me respond to this first. The point within this is that as we do not have control over this, our inner being, together with the guardian angels and the consciousness that accompany us, helping us to evolve, they usually give us an impulse that we reject in general. So we find them great. It's like that shirt with that open button. We think it's the best, but we look on the mirror, the way our life is, we see that there's something that should be adjusted. So, of course, dreams is a path of perfecting, but the language usually does not coincide with our expectation. It may generate lack of interest. This is why we should be very careful with our aspiration. There's something wrong here. What's happened? I want careful when you go to sleep because what's happened? What happened is that you offered yourself, you participated in some point of balancing on the astral plane, and then you have a nightmare. So the only point to complete your comment, more than a question, is not to waste the response that comes from the inner world. We should be without expectations because we might receive something that we were not expecting and we may lose our interest in our inner quest. So I asked for light, give me light indication, and then I had something different. Oh, what a nightmare. No, not a nightmare. Didn't you ask for help? The help came. And completing, because the matter of symbols is quite vast, isn't it? For example, sometimes I have some dreams and I try to discover what it is. So I go to Google to see the meaning of dreams. And depending on the response that I manage to research, I try to relate with it to my moment, to what I'm feeling, to make an interpretation because oftentimes it's very difficult to interpret a dream. May I interrupt you? I think I have understood your question. Look, symbolic life comes to help us in our transformation, our awakening and transformation. So it's not a matter of interpretation. When she asked about the sweet, it's not an interpretation, it's a perception. There may be other 10 perceptions of an impulse for our transformation or a confirmation of the path we are going through. So interpretation goes through the mental body and our choices and our affinities. So when it coincides with my expectation, I will accept that interpretation. And symbolic life cannot, does not follow this path. It sends you a flower, the topic of sweets, animals, It comes in seconds. We don't even know how long it took. But what remains as an impulse is what it means to us. What do I have to learn from this? Because there are even books and dream dictionaries, and sometimes it may coincide, but what our inner world wants to transmit to us through a symbol is unique. There may be 15 people who have dreamt with something similar, with some aspects, but they may be completely different. Like that animal and this animal, they were two different, completely different things. So I wouldn't look for dreams as a path of interpretation. I would see it as a path of learning, of evolution, of awakening that demands from us this passivity. It's not a mental active, actively, mentally active process. It's like the black and white dream and allow it to make it do its work. So, like when you find a medicine, it is a process that needs to take place until the medicine enters the blood circulation and does it work and do it work. So let the symbol do its work at that moment. Good evening. I would like to know what dreaming with great waves means. I don't know what it means. I can make a reflection. As I was saying, the sea in the process of water in general, it refers to our emotional body. In general, the expression of the sea in a dream is the way our emotional body, the moment we dream, it's not that our emotional body is like that, but at that moment, our emotional body is experiencing that. Many people dream that they are alone on a beach. The, the weather is cold. There is a giant wave. And when they place themselves in the position of their life, the emotional body is showing her almost succumbing to the wave. If this is recurrent, be before this and observe. Allow symbolic life to bring the impulse for transformation. Am I clear? There is a level in us, no, no intuitive level will bring us an impulse that would not, that would destroy us. No, all the elements that come intuitively come to show us or to show us a service that we are offering. So it's not a matter of interpreting or being frightened by this. Let's thank for life, and that's it. And then you observe it's a moment of a lot of attention. So, attention with me. I need help. There's something here that is great. What do I have to transform in the face of this? The dream is for showing us how we have to offer to evolve and to transform. We were not created to suffer. We were created to grow. One more question? And good evening. I would like to know what dreams paralysis means. You want to wake up and you cannot. It's a youngster here. See, in the same line of the topic of tigers, these negative forces, they are paralyzing because fear is a paralyzing force, isn't it? So if our astral body during the moment of dreams at night or during the dream, it makes great contact with these very negative and dense forces. It may happen that on returning to the consciousness of the physical brain, it may happen that you can't manage to wake up. You cannot return to the body. This is one aspect. Another aspect that I mentioned, the topic of Atlantis about the astral unfoldment, is that as eventually the astral body may have this overstimulation coming from another experience on another incarnation or cycles, it has an autonomy, so to say, that does not correspond to its current organization. Do you follow me so far? Yes or no? So when it has made all this movement in the astral plane over developed, when it returns, the body is not in the same rhythm. The body is more inert in another kind of development. So the body is needs to accommodate to this situation. I know it's disturbing. I know how it is. In my life, I have had it two or three times. It's a very negative sensation of impotency, of living in a situation that we do not know what to do. There may be other possible causes. We know this nowadays, but in what you mentioned, that's what I can help you with. Another question? What does it mean when you wake up very often at 3 o'clock in the morning? Very often. In the West, we are not too much connected with nature, with rhythms, with life as a whole. We are very materialistic. I say the West because we have a culture that is different from the old East, in which there was a very luminous stage for humanity as a whole. This is a time of transition on many planes in which our higher bodies and lower bodies are more available to higher patterns of behavior. So everything is calmer at that hour. So there is an inner predisposition in the place where we are, including the energy aspect, for a renewal. It's a time of renewal, 3 o'clock in the morning. Again, all symbolic life and situation that touches us, such as this one, has to do with your moment, your process, and your learning experience and learning process. So, as much as I may bring elements, what you have to do is to ask yourself what you have to learn from this and not to try to discover this the next day. You have to ask, have interest for this, but wait for the answers. They will come the right moment. Due to our time constraints, one more question only. I would like to know the difference between leaving the body and waking up with the dream, or waking up in the dream. I would like to know the difference between these two experiences. I'll change some words. You are aware in the dream in which you are sleeping. So you're not waking up in a dream. They are different things. You are aware in the dream. When we are aware in the dream, in the sleep, and we know that we are dreaming, this, in the answer that I made to his question, it may mean that we have an offering to serve and work at that moment. So we are consciously aware so that we may more gather together as consciousness. We may be less led by the forces of the astral body and the mental body. This does not mean to lead the dream. Some people say, I changed the dream. You may have a very strong intentional process. You create a situation that you're calling a dream, but this is not a dream. This is a mental process. You are not really dreaming. So if your offering is this, in this direction of being available, conscious, and everything, many of us may have a lapse of consciousness. We know that we are dreaming, which does not exempt us from experiencing that situation. Once I had a dream, I can report. I also collaborate with humanitarian missions. We work with a group. There was an abyss a place that then there was a forest, very tall, and I saw myself launching over that. I was aware that I was dreaming, but at the same time, I was aware that I had to live that experience. It was a dream, and that it didn't cause me fear or courage, whatever. No, I only knew that I had a learning experience to learn. I woke up, but I felt that the learning experience took place. Do you understand? So it occurs to me to expand the reflection is that we shouldn't need to worry about knowing. It's an imperfection of production that our minds want to control everything, but our minds are completely out of control. Symbolic life also comes to show us that we have no control over this. So, to conclude, it may also be a very strong mental body that at a given moment it show themselves that even while sleeping, I have control. So you need to investigate and to know, in my case, what happened. It may be many different things. Again, there is no explanation for the dream. Not one explanation. It would be childish. I know there is a lesson and stay with that. Allow it and your life to work in your consciousness. This will make our consciousness mature. Very well, a very broad topic. Let's see if I continue this at some moment. Thank you for coming here. I hope it has been satisfying. Some people are sleeping in different situations at work, on the bus. So let's respect our lives in dreams as very rich life as a whole. Good evening. Thank you, everyone.